call the meeting to order. Please rise for a moment of silence and pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please read the Open Public Meeting Act, Judge.
Pursuant to the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this 2014 reorganization meeting of the Mayor and Borough Council of the Borough of Spring Lake Heights has been filed in the office of the Borough Clerk, posted in the municipal building and on the Borough website, and was transmitted via fax to the Coast Star and Asbury Park Press newspaper.
Thank you. And you have the statement of the November 5th, 2013 election results.
Yes, Mayor. I am in receipt of a statement of determination that reads as follows. A statement of determination of the Board of County Canvassers relative to an election held in the Borough of Spring Lake Heights on the 5th day of November in the year of our Lord 2013 for the election of the municipal officers for said Spring Lake Heights Borough. The said board determines that at said election, Thomas Vorbach and Thomas P. O'Brien were duly elected members of the Borough Council full term. And this has been signed by the County Board of Canvassers and attested to by Claire French, the county clerk.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to administer the oath of office to Mr. Warbeck and Mr. O'Brien. Tom?
I, Thomas Vorbach,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of the office as
all the duties of the office as
Spring Lake Heights Councilman,
Spring Lake Heights Councilman,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Good, nice.
I
Thomas O'Brien,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of the office as Spring Lake Heights Councilman,
all the duties of the office as Spring Lake Heights Councilman,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. I'd like to welcome Mr. Vorbach back, and I'd like to welcome Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you.
May we have a roll call, Jay?
Mrs. Cynthia?
Here.
Mrs. King,
Here.
Mr. O'Brien,
Here.
Mr. Schuler,
Here.
Mr. Tinkin,
Here.
Mr. Vorbach,
Here.
Mayor Mechanico.
Here, thank you. We have the election of the council president and for all council appointments for 2014. We have the procedure for electing a council president for the year 2014. Do we have any?
I would like to make a motion for Chris Tinkin.
Mayor, my apologies. The first item on the agenda is actually a procedural resolution establishing the procedure for election of the council president and not the election of the council president itself. So if you could kindly withdraw that motion, we'll get to item 7A on the agenda, and then we'll get to 7B, and then you can make your motion. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Fred. You always here to rescue me. Sorry. We need a motion to, for the procedure to elect the council president first.
I'll make that motion.
And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a roll call.
Mrs. Cynthia,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, now we will elect the council president to serve for the year 2014. We need a
And
name.
I would like to nominate Chris Tinkin for council president.
And we have a second.
I'll second it.
Do we have any other nominations? Any other nominations? We have a roll call, okay.
This is on the motion to elect Councilman Tinkin as council president. Mrs. Cynthia,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Next resolution will be establishing council committees. Now, I just have, on this resolution, I have my recommendations. And the reason why I recommend these is because they worked well last year, and I see no need to change them. Anyone else has any other opinion on that, welcome to give it.
I would like to make a motion to change.
First we will take a vote if we want them. I'm not going to change them today. If we vote these down, I apologize, if we vote these down, we'll discuss them at the next meeting about who we vote.
Mayor, if I could kindly interject. These are election of council committees, and it's purely a council action. I know you've made your recommendations to the governing body, but it's purely up to the council to make this determination. So respectfully, I would suggest that you allow the council to move forward with their choices for council committee. It's purely a council action.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I would like to make a motion to make some changes. I would like to, Tom Vorbach to go to legislation and grants.
I'm okay with that.
And I would like Jim Schuler to go to utilities. And I would like myself to go to public works, buildings and grounds.
Do we need a second?
You would need a second on
For a vote?
the appointments that Councilwoman Cynthia has moved forward. Yes.
I'll second.
Okay. Well, I have a question. Now, I, in my introduction there, I said the council committee chairs worked very well last year. I'm just curious as to why we would switch them around.
Well, I believe that,
Well, Mayor, there's a couple.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Chris, Patty
Patty
has-
goes first, okay.
I would like the opportunity to be in buildings and grounds. Nobody, with all due respect, nobody called me, maybe you, yourself, regarding what committee I want to be head of this year. I'm fighting a cold, so I'm not very loud. But I would like to be buildings and grounds this year. I would like to work more with the beautification committee and with Chris in the recreation for the parks. And I feel that I'll do a much better job in communicating with the beautification committee and getting things done to make the town look better and buildings grounds wise.
Chris?
Yeah, I don't think it's uncommon to change committees. The council has done that in the past. It's no secret that Councilwoman Cynthia has some strong feelings about public works, and so this would be an opportunity for her to be a part of that situation. I could support her in Public Works.
Now, I would assume, when I see things like this, I would assume that we're going to work for the benefit of the town. That's why we're here.
I think so.
I assume we're all here to make sure
Absolutely.
we work for the benefit of the town, and we don't interject any other kind of personal thing into it. That is my desire. So that's why I'm a little skeptical of these switching events. But that's only my opinion. Anyone else have anything to say?
I'd say legislation and grants or utilities, I'll go either way, whatever's, you know, doesn't matter to me.
You do well on any committee.
Well, thank you.
Not a problem. You did well on utilities last year. Again, I wanted to put you back there, but.
Yeah, I'd be happy to be there, but I would have to do, you know, it works for everybody, I'm happy to accommodate.
Thank you, Tom. Anything else?
No, the only thing I would like to say is that I do feel that Jimmy Schuler did a very good job representing Public Works and Buildings and Grounds, and I think a lot of things were accomplished during his time serving in that capacity. I do realize that sometimes people like to make changes, and you know, that's understandable, but I'm a little upset over the fact that we want to say that maybe things haven't been done in the past. I think Jim has been very, very active and doing a lot of things for Spring Lake Heights in that capacity. That's all I have to say.
Mayor, I don't think any of these proposed changes are calling into question any committee person's chairmanship or the way they did their committee.
Thank you.
And Mayor, if I may recap the motion that has been made and seconded and which is on the table, is to establish the following committees with the following committee chairs. Public Safety, the chair being Councilwoman Sarah King. Public Works, Buildings and Grounds, the chairperson being Councilwoman Cynthia. Finance, the council chair being Councilman O'Brien. Legislation and Grants, the chairperson being Councilman Vorbak. Recreation, the council committee chair being Councilman Tinkin. And Utilities, the committee chair being Councilman Schuler. With that understanding, you may move forward with the vote.
Thank you. Nothing else? Roll call, Chair.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes?
Mrs. King?
No.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
No.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach?
Yes.
And the motion passed.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is appointing planning board members, which is a class 3 member from the Borough Council. We need a nomination.
I'd like to nominate Councilwoman Cynthia.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Do we have any questions? Roll call, Jack.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes?
Mrs. King?
No.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
No.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach?
Yes.
Thank you. We have mayor's appointments. First on the list would be the borough engineer, and this would be East Point Engineering, who was our engineer last year. We need a motion and a second for that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Do we have any questions for the borough engineer?
I think we did a fine, Joe May did a fine job.
Thank you. Roll call, Jim.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes?
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach?
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, it will be borough prosecutor, and I would like to nominate Colin Quinn as borough prosecutor.
Mayor, can I make a motion that we table this? These set of requests regarding the courts they seem to be the only set, or maybe I didn't read this right, that didn't come with a set of cost estimates. Could we table this until the next meeting and have Jay send us some of the cost estimates like he did here, or
Actually,
are they all included?
the prosecutor, alternate prosecutor, public defender, and alternate public defender positions were not included in our RFP. Those are paid by salary, they are not contractual. And on that basis, we did not solicit proposals from them, and the mayor indicated his intention to renominate them.
Okay, do we have the salary information in terms of all 4 of those?
The salaries are set by the council by ordinance.
Okay, so that would be reflected in our salary wage
The
and
current
ordinance.
salaries are reflected in the 2013 salary ordinance And any change, or a change, if any, would be reflected in the 2014 salary ordinance at which time it's adopted.
Okay.
Okay, Chris? Thank you.
So are you withdrawing your motion to table?
Unless someone wants to second it.
Is there a second on the motion to table?
Just this,
The four,
No, it would be all the court appointments.
can we do one at a time?
I don't know, can you do them all one at a time?
Well, the motion that you brought forward was technically for this particular
Yeah.
position. You're free to make the same motion with regard to the
Okay.
remainder of the court positions, if you would like.
Okay.
Is there a second on the motion to table providing your confirmation to the appointment of the municipal prosecutor?
do you want a second? Second?
You can, I'm not.
Okay. I'll second it.
So there's a motion and a second to table action on providing your advice and consent to the municipal prosecutor position.
Yeah, I'd like to table it.
Will we get something as far as what's going forward?
Pardon me?
As far as going forward,
Well, again, these appointments are the mayor's nomination with the advice and consent of
So
council.
we could table it, it gives us a little more time to talk about it.
At council's discretion.
All right, so we will discuss this at the next meeting.
Well, I think we gotta vote on tabling, right?
Yes, there's a motion and a second to table
Just to be clear, it's only,
this particular
For this one, yeah.
position.
Anything else? No, roll call, Jay.
On the motion
This is the
to
motion to
table
table.
the nomination as prosecutor, Mrs. Cynthia,
yes,
Mrs. King,
No,
Mr. O'Brien,
I think, so can I just ask one more question? So the information about the salaries is just in our salary and wage?
yes,
It's a
In the
salary
budget?
position, yes.
it's already in the budget.
It's already, we already voted on it? All right, no.
Mr. Schuler,
no.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
No.
Mayor would have to break the tie on that.
Actually, I'm reflecting
No.
four
Oh, I'm
four
sorry, I thought it was
no's.
3-3, my
So
apologies.
the motion to table was defeated.
Was defeated, okay. Thank you.
So there needs to be a motion now to move the nominee forward.
I'll make that motion.
We have a second?
second.
Thank you. Any questions? Other than,
we're now voting.
for Mr.
Because the
Quinn.
motion to table didn't pass.
Okay,
Got that?
yes, sorry.
Roll call, Jay.
Now we're voting.
You're voting
Henry's
on
prosecutor.
providing your advice and consent to the appointment of Colin Quinn to serve as municipal
Correct.
prosecutor.
Correct.
Mrs. Cynthia,
Yes,
Mrs. King,
Yes,
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Thank you. Alternative prosecutor, I'd like to nominate Mr. James Carton. We have a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do we have any questions? Roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia,
yes,
Mrs. King,
Yes,
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Thank you. Public defender, I'd like to nominate Mr. Charles Shaw. We have a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do you have any questions? Roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia,
yes,
Mrs. King,
Yes,
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Mr. Donald Beer for the alternate public defender. I need a motion and a second from Mr. Beer.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do you have any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cynthia,
yes,
Mrs. King,
Yes,
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution nominating Mr. Joe May as our code enforcement zoning officer. We need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Do you have any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cynthia,
yes,
Mrs. King,
Yes,
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Thank you. A resolution for Borough Fire, fire official, Mr. Joe Belleville. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, Jim.
Mrs. Cynthia,
yes,
Mrs. King,
Yes,
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Mrs. Janine Gillis as Deputy Borough Clerk. I need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call, Jeff?
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach?
Yes.
Zoning Board of Adjustment members and alternate. I'd like to have Fred Major, regular member, Dennis Pearsall, regular member, Randolph Mechanical III as regular member, and Owen Quinn as alternate number 1. I need a motion and a second.
Can I ask a question of council first, or do we have to take the motion?
You can ask me a question.
Okay, do we have to vote on all 4? If we vote yes on this, that passes all 4 of them, or can we?
At your discretion, when a motion is made, you can move the entire slate set forth by the mayor, or you can move forward to provide your advice and consent on certain nominees set forth by the mayor. You don't have the power to initiate a different name, but you can provide your advice and consent on some or all of these names brought forward by the mayor. The mayor has a period of 30 days to bring names forward to fill vacancies. So it's now in council's discretion to approve any or all of these names. If some are not approved today, then the mayor may feel free to propose other names to fill those that haven't been filled today, or at the expiration of the 30-day period for the mayor to make his nominations, the council may then fill the vacancy, any vacancies that still remain.
And if I may suggest that if there are objections to one or more of those appointments, that they just be dealt with separately. It just makes it easier from a practical standpoint, taking them one at a time, if that's the request, at the discretion of the mayor.
That would work. We could go through each one of these and take a vote on each one individually. So when a motion is made, the motion can be specific to each name, and then we can go through the procedure of a second and a vote, and then get to the next name and the next name and the next name.
Or we could just table the whole thing and wait until.
You could. I don't
February
recommend
1st
that, though,
later on.
because these terms are now expired, and you may end up in a situation where you can't get a quorum, and you may have activities with these boards, this is the zoning board, that they're not going to be able to meet and conduct their business unless they have members.
It's only one meeting, just the January.
I don't know how many meetings are between now and our first regular meeting of the council.
I think we would just table it.
The zoning board meeting, Mayor, if I may, the zoning board meeting as currently scheduled is not scheduled until later in the month, subsequent to our next meeting, presumed meeting, because we haven't set a meeting schedule yet either.
Oh, so if we table it, we could come back to this issue at the next meeting, which would be approximately 2 weeks, and take care of it before the zoning board actually were to meet.
Yes, let me just double check my calendar. I believe the zoning board meets on the 4th Thursday,
First meeting in February.
and that is scheduled for the 23rd. Presumably, we will be meeting on the 13th.
If we table it at the first meeting.
Direct your comments to the chair. Direct your comments to the chair,
Oh,
this chair.
I was saying that we could table it for the first meeting in February.
I would not recommend tabling to the first meeting in February. I would if council is inclined to table, I would recommend tabling to the first regular meeting in January, because that's prior to the first meeting of the zoning board, and you wouldn't be leaving the zoning board in a position where they can't muster a quorum.
Would it be objectionable just to simply do them one at a time?
Tom, if that's
At
the
council's
council's
discretion, that's
desire,
perfectly permissible.
We can do them one at a time if that's your desire.
It all depends on the
Almost a
motion that's
compromise
made
between them.
and brought
I'll
forward.
make that motion, that we vote them one at a time.
Okay.
I'll second.
Third it.
Okay, we'll take these recommendations one at a time. We will begin with Mr. Fred Major, appointing to a 4-year term ending December 31st, 2017.
Okay, if I can just clarify, the motion that was just made by Councilman Vorbach and seconded by Councilman Tinkin related to taking them individually. That has not yet been resolved, so if you could just take a vote on that, then we would establish the procedure that you're going to take this individually, then you can move and second each name in the sequence they're listed in the resolution.
Okay,
So we just need a vote on that motion that's currently on the table.
we need a motion.
No, you have a motion on the table that's been seconded, Mayor, to take each name individually. We just need a roll call on that.
This is on the roll call to take the zoning board of adjustment nomination separately. Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
No.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
No.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
And that was 4-2.
That is 4-2 in favor of the separating the appointments.
We'll take the names individually. Mr. Fred Major, motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Do we have any questions? Roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia,
No.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
No.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
No.
Mr. Vorbach.
No.
That is 2 votes in favor,
I
4 votes opposed.
I was shocked. Mr. Dennis Pearsall, 4-year term ending December 31st, 2017. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Chair, I'll
Tom,
second.
you second?
Yeah.
Any questions? A roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Randolph Mechanical, third for a 4-year term ending December 31st, 2017.
I'll nominate him.
I'll second it.
Any question? Roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Owen Quinn, alternate number 1 for a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2015. We need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Lefebvre, I still have 30 days to nominate another.
Yes, that's correct, Mayor.
Thank you.
So there remains 1 vacancy that still needs to be filled out.
Thank you. Board of Adjustment, sorry. All right. Board of Health members, resolution for the Board of Health members. We have Ms. Kate Maloney, Ms. Doris McCann, and Ms. Patricia Scuba. For a 3-year term, ending Ms. Maloney 2016, Ms. McCown 2016, and Ms. Scuba 2015. Need a motion and
I'll
a
make
second.
that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution appointing beautification members. We have Lisa Britton, Eileen Eilenberger, Deidre Fallon, Catherine Hahn, Susan Herner, and Dorothy McKee. They're all 1-year term for 12/31/14. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is the planning board members and the alternates. I'd like to nominate Ms. Catherine Crippen for the Class 2 1-year term, Mr. Richard Giver, Class 4 4-year term, Mrs. Eileen Eilenberger as alternate 1 for 2-year term, and that's it. And if I'm correct, we don't need a vote.
That's correct, Mayor. These are mayoral appointments.
Next on the agenda is the environmental commission members. They're alternate. Regular member, Ms. Betty Sturdy. A regular member, 3-year term, Ms. Galen Nolan. Alternate number 1 for a 1-year term, Mr. Robert Cynthia. And alternate number 2, 1-year term, Margaret Melchion. We need a vote for this.
No, Mayor. Likewise, this is mayoral appointment,
Okay.
not requiring advice of consent of council.
Thank you. Does everybody have that list? No names? Does everybody have those names?
I heard you. I heard
Jay,
you.
I'm sorry, could you get the list to the council? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'll do that.
Additional resolutions. Get my copies here. Trunk checks for auditor service. There we go there. Did I miss something, Jay? Yes. Oh, no, I didn't miss it. Verification, okay. Awarding contract for audit services. I would like to nominate Suppley, Cooney and Company to provide audit service for the year 2014.
And Mayor, if I may, as a result of the request for qualifications, request for proposals that were solicited by the borough, yesterday afternoon, we received those proposals and provided to the council information, a very short summary of the proposals that were submitted. For auditor, there were two proposals, and I provided you with the information regarding the costs associated with those.
Did everybody get that? Everyone got that, correct?
Yep, I got that.
And I would just note that the resolution as distributed did not include the specific dollar amount, and therefore we would insert the appropriate amounts in number 1 and number 2 as far as the fixed rate for the performance of the audit, as well as the additional authorized service hourly rate.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other questions?
Mayor, I would just like to interject here and ask that some of these professional appointments, since we have the hourly rates on a sheet of paper and we have no background information with it, that any of the professional appointments from this point on, such as borough attorney, bond counsel, labor counsel, auditor, be tabled until we have a chance to review this at an executive session before our next council meeting.
We have a motion to table. Should you,
I'm not-
go ahead, Tom.
I wanted to ask a question, but
We need a second first.
Yes, I believe there was a motion and a second on the underlying motion, or resolution, which was to appoint this auditing firm.
Right.
Suppley, Cooney and Company.
That's correct.
And in the meantime, Councilwoman King has interjected a motion to table. That is proper under Robert's Rules of Order. However, the motion to table would have to be seconded.
I'll second it.
And that's for all the professional appointments from here on out, including this. So we would vote on that first.
Yes.
Right.
The
That doesn't make
motion
any
to
sense to do that.
table takes precedence over the underlying motion.
I just want, you know, because if you had to, just make a comment. On this sheet here, just correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, you have an alternative that's $200 an hour, and Suppley Cooney and is $175, so it is a lower rate.
Yes, and again, for the audit services, the RFP, the RFQ that we solicited was for the fee to perform the audit, which is the first number, I believe it's the 23,000.
It is 23,000 versus 30, which would be the other alternative that we have.
That's
So
correct.
it's $7,000
Right.
difference.
The hourly rate that's indicated is for additional services outside the scope of
Oh, so
delivering the audit.
it's about $7,000 cheaper, plus
Right
you
away.
save $25 an hour for anything extra.
Yeah.
That, whatever that
I
difference
just
is.
wanted to point that out.
And I would
But
also like
this, I mean, just as far as timing, this is for next year's budget, right? For this auditor, we've already hired the auditor for this year's budget, so it's not really that time crucial.
Right, as we budget
Okay.
plan for it, yeah.
And don't misunderstand me, I'm not saying that.
Just making sure that we don't need this auditor right away.
Right. I'm not saying that this isn't possibly going to be the auditor, but I know
Yeah.
past practice, usually when you get into your professional people, we all have an opportunity to look at their packets, and we haven't had a chance to do any of that.
And if I could just indicate, the motion to table was with regard to all professional appointments, other than, of course, the borough engineer who we were appointed earlier
Yeah.
on in this meeting. However, practically speaking, it really only relates to the auditor because that's the only one listed on tonight's, or today's agenda, rather, from that point forward.
So we're really only voting on the auditor then,
Yes.
on this table
If
motion,
if the table motion passes.
right?
Correct, because that
Okay.
was the only professional appointment that
So
was
we can
listed on
only
today's
table the
agenda.
auditor right now?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, is everybody clear on that? We have a roll call check.
This is on the motion to table the remaining professional appointments listed on tonight's agenda. Mrs. Cynthia.
No.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Sure, yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
No.
Mr. Vorbach.
No.
Mayor, my tally reflects that that is a tie vote on the motion to table.
Yes. Yes.
Motion carries with the mayor's vote in favor of table.
Thank you. Awarding new contract for financial reporting to PM Consultants for the year 2014. I need a motion and a second for that.
I'll make that motion.
Have a
I'll
second?
second.
Any questions? Roll call, Chair?
Mrs. Cynthia,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Thank you. A resolution designating the official newspapers for year 2014. I need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Second. And they would be the Co-Star, the Asbury Park Press, and the Star Ledger. Roll call, Chair.
Mrs. Cynthia,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach.
Yes.
Thank you. I need a resolution to establish the meeting schedule for the year 2014, as we have them listed, so anyone go down that list, and we have any, first we need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion.
A second?
I'll second.
Do we have any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
On the December,
December.
normally we only have one
Yeah.
meeting in December.
Mhm. Mhm. Why, we have them too? Well, I was told by by Jay, that sometimes it gets a little difficult there to get all the business done at the end of the year if we only have one meeting. So
I will tell you that,
Adjust that, Jay.
This is almost my second full year here, but I've been here for 2 Decembers, and last year we had Sandy issues to deal with. This year, we had difficulty at one point late in the year providing for quorums, and that backed us up in terms of paying the bills. And I know it's not a convenient time of year, but given sometimes the need for end-of-year business to be conducted, had suggested, in discussion with the mayor, the inclusion of a second meeting in December. Additionally, in the past, when we've had the single meeting in December, it was on an off meeting night. Our regular schedule is second and fourth Mondays. It was on the third, which created conflicts for some members of council as well as some of our professionals because of previous commitments. But again, it was just a suggestion. The schedule is left to the council's discretion.
Good, Chris.
Mayor, maybe we could kind of walk the middle on that. I was thinking, to have less meetings during the year because, then you're paying less in professional service, like you don't have to bring the attorney out as many times, things like that. Could we hold some meetings, take some meetings off the calendar, but keep them kind of in reserve if we have to pay some bills? And I called Jay and asked Jay about some of these dates. Something like Tuesday, May 27th. That's the day after Memorial Day. A lot of people are still sometimes away, so on and so forth. Maybe that could be a meeting where we don't really schedule, only if we have to pay the bills.
Okay.
Same thing with Monday, November 24th. It's around Thanksgiving. If for some reason we have to pay some bills, sure, we can do a finance meeting, something like that. And the same thing with that 22nd. Use it if we have to have it, but let's not book our professional services and things like that to save some money.
Okay.
So see how the council feels about that.
For suggestions, and I just hope our taxpayer residents agree with that as well. Remember, they pay us to do this. They don't want us taking too many days off.
Yeah,
But I don't take a salary, Mayor, and it is a way to save on some fees of the people that we have to bring here back at night and pay them to be here at night.
Okay, how's everybody feel about this? Be May 27th, November 24th, and December 22nd.
I don't have any objection. No.
No objection to it?
Doesn't mean we can't have a meeting, but that would be like we did in December to pay the bills. It's
Just like with the,
kind of like for an emergency, but schedule only bill paying on those.
Because I look at the school, they have one meeting a month, they're able to pay their bills. I know we're a little bit different, but, they save in attorney's fees and other fees because those people don't have to be at 23 meetings.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
I personally think that to cut back is going to cause us problems from time to time, such as attendance at meetings and the workload. Many towns, what they do is they have 2 meetings a month. One is a workshop and one is a council meeting. I know that that's also a practice with some municipalities. But I think to not have these dates on the calendar and not make the availability to the public to come out and have us conduct business on a regular basis, I can see us getting backed up with only 1 meeting, and I can see the meeting being very long. So I would not be in favor of something like that.
I feel we're better off having the meeting scheduled, and we can make adjustments as we go along. At least have them scheduled.
That's actually a good suggestion. Maybe we could have it where we put an asterisk next to those meetings, they're scheduled, but the time comes, if Jay thinks
We don't need it, then
we don't need it, we could, is that even feasible?
Certainly,
Because then we'd save on some professional fees. I mean, I don't care coming over here.
certainly that's
Take that
feasible.
down and take it out.
It's much better to know in advance that we're not going to have a quorum rather than
Yeah.
plan on business being conducted and not being able to take action.
Right, so what Jim's saying is it's easier to keep it on,
Keep it on.
With an
and then
asterisk,
take it off if we need, okay.
because we all remember those meetings, and if we need it, we'll,
Good,
sure.
good.
That's good, Jim.
Next. Now, is everyone clear on that?
We're good, so we just vote on the calendar.
meeting schedule.
Okay.
3 would be put aside,
Sure.
outside, but they'll be on the
We'll
meeting.
put, yeah, I make a motion to put an asterisk next to them as per this discussion.
Fred?
Well, there was a motion and a second on the table with regard to the schedule as currently presented.
Right.
Respectfully, I don't think you necessarily need to put an asterisk next to
Oh,
those
okay,
meetings,
we'll
but
just-
you can just direct, as you
Smiley
have,
face.
the administrator to keep those dates in mind, to potentially either cancel those meetings or to advise professionals that they will not be needed for those particular meetings to keep down the fees.
Thanks, Fred. Everything I needed to know about asterisks from a legal point of view.
I put 3 asterisk sheets on. Anything else?
No, so now we just voted.
Roll call, Chip.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Horbach?
Yes.
A resolution adopting the cash management plan for year 2014. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Horbach?
Yes.
A resolution fixing the rate of interest to be charged for delinquent tax payments. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any questions?
Yeah,
Yes, good.
you know,
Yeah, I know they're trying to.
to me, these rates are, if someone's late, if they're on vacation or whatever, it's like a credit card. 8% for, if you were under 1,500 you owed, 18% interest on anything above 1,500. You know, and then there's a penalty at the end of the year. You know, I understand that you have to motivate people, but, you know, we don't also not have to put them in the poorhouse either. I would, I don't know what our rates were in the past, but if I was, you know, a snowbird or something, and I came back and I saw that I had an 18% interest on my tax bill, I'd be upset.
Are they being seriously raised?
Oh, I don't know what they were last year, but
These reflect no change, and as the resolution
I didn't like
indicates,
them last year. as I recall.
these are the legally allowable maximums.
Can we do like, I don't know, like,
Well, we'd have to get together.
can I throw out and say, cut it in half at least?
I don't, yeah, well,
Is that, I mean,
If I may, Mayor, if there
I
is,
think you have to get the PM consultants and the auditors.
it's more expensive.
It's not that easy.
if there is consensus to make a change that would require some adjustment of our tax system, and frankly, I don't know if there is any cost involved in that. I believe we can make some of those changes fairly simply, but not anticipating that, I'm not prepared to offer a definitive answer.
So maybe just ask my fellow councilman, I mean, does everybody seem that these are, I mean, to me, these seem kind of high. It's worthwhile if Jay looked into it, see if we can lower these, right?
if we table it, these still stay in effect, there's no harm in tabling it, right?
Council could table, and you previously have a resolution that had established rates, and you can modify them with the next resolution that's adopted at such time as you have additional information.
I just don't like dinging my neighbors for 18%, it's just, you know.
Can I make a motion to table?
Yes.
All right, motion to table.
And I'll second it, surprisingly.
Any questions? Roll call, Jim.
On the motion to table the tax interest resolution, Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then that's with
Good, good.
the, Jay, that's with the understanding that you're gonna. check
We'll
your
we'll list it
locations.
to come back for the council's consideration at a future meeting.
Yeah,
Probably our next one.
just throwing it out there, I'm thinking about lobbing it at, you know.
See what's good, man.
We have resolution adopting for temporary operating budget for the year 2014. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Any questions? Roll call, Jim.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution designating various officials and individuals to various applications and certifications. Does everybody have the list in front of them, or you want me to run down the list?
We got it, Jay.
We got it. Okay. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Roll call, check.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Vorbach?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, on my agenda, we have a section here for public comment. If anyone would like to make a comment, just step forward and give your name and address.
Kathleen Crippen, 564 Atlantic Avenue. As you know, I'm a big supporter of open, transparent government. And I think that the members of the public would really have an objection if the number of meetings per year were reduced. Because having regular meetings twice a month allows for more public participation, it allows for more public comment, and it allows for the public to take part in what is going on in the borough. Whether or not they choose to come out is up to them, but it really is up to the council to provide those opportunities, and I would really object to seeing the number of meetings cut down. But parenthetically, you might want to consider, I understand that some people on the council don't take their salary, but other people do, and they are paid whether or not they attend meetings. So perhaps one thing that you would want to look at as a cost-cutting measure is that if the council person is not present for a meeting and doesn't meet their obligation, then they're not paid for that meeting. I don't get paid when I don't go to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just coming up with some lesson news. I just like to, on behalf of Spring Lake Heights Democratic Club, I'd like to invite all of you to a reception at St. Stephen's Green shortly after the meeting to welcome Tom and Tom.
And that's open to everybody here, right?
Yes, it's open.
I don't know if everybody heard
And
this.
it's open to, right?
We don't have to
We have
vote.
a little thing at St. Stephen's, everybody's welcome to come, free food and whatnot. At what time on it?
Right after.
Right after, so.
Since the meeting's over.
Thank you. Yes.
Hello, sir. I'd like to congratulate you on your reelection. Tom, it's nice to see you again, and I hope once again you will be your own person, as I recall you were the last time you sat upstairs. One suggestion is, I would think, is in today's paper, the editorial section, it says, texting at private meetings violates Open Meetings Act. It also refers to walking between yourself. We spend enough money in this borough. I think the acoustics could be much better. I talk to seniors who have come with me. They leave, they have no idea what you're saying. You look at each other. Tom, we can hear you. Usually we can you hear, Sarah, but not all the time. And today we heard you, Tom. Thank you. But I mean, it's only fair to the public. We come out, we vote, and you better remember that. Because too much goes on that people aren't aware of in this town. Fred speaks up usually, but you should have a microphone. Where is it? Over here. Well, that's good. So I think something, Jay, who's ever in charge, should see to it that the acoustics are much better. I know we're getting older, and we're hard of hearing, but like I have allergies, and some nights it's very difficult. You want to say something to me?
I was gonna throw out an idea, you know, because it's an alternative, is maybe we could just have little signs here that remind us to speak up, because I think sometimes, you know, you talk in your normal tone of voice, but it's a big room and the mic doesn't pick it up, but if you
And
talk a
when you
little.
sit in the back, you do.
Yeah, I want everybody to hear. They may not like what I say, but.
I don't know, because you can't hear me. I mean, I wish you all, and Butch, it's nice to see you back. I wish you good health in the coming year. And
Thanks so much.
that's all I can say. But I hope for improvement in the coming year, believe me.
Thanks.
Just remember, elections are always up, and even at 85, I still vote.
Thank you, Gladys.
Thank you, Bob.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no comments, I open up any comments from the council. I would first like to, before we adjourn, wish everyone a happy new year and a helpful new year. And I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues on the council here. And I want to thank Sarah, because I was derelict the duty there for a while. And Miss Sarah covered this real well. She did a good job, and I want to thank her. I also want to thank the council for doing well in my absence. Probably did better with me not being here. But anyway, I wish everybody a happy new year and good health in the new year. Anyone would like to say anything?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Godspeed, everybody, in 2014.
And I would just like to wish Butch well and welcome him back after his little stint there with health issues. And I want to say I did enjoy being the council president. I felt, you know, that I did do some good things during the short period of times that I did fill in for Butch. But, you know, we are moving on, and I certainly hope that 2014, we're able to work together and to accomplish the things that we really have to accomplish and keep the residents in our uppermost thoughts. Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you. Need a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.